Podcast.
So, hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of NoMad Podcast. And I'm here live from Prague, and I had Rachel Geyer joining me for today's podcast, live from the BTC Prague conference, which was amazing. And yeah, without spoiling too much, let's get right to the episode.
Cool. So, welcome back to another episode of NoMad Podcast. And today I have Rachel joining me live from BTC Prague. Rachel, it has been an amazing 3 days.
It
How are
certainly
you?
has. I'm exhausted, but it has been an amazing 3 days. But you can really tell that we're getting to the end, and people are flagging, but tired but happy.
Okay, so my first question actually for you is how did you get into Bitcoin? What's your story? So,
Through my son.
that's
And
so
I don't
lovely.
think that there's so many people whose children. I'm so glad I had children, even if it's just for getting into Bitcoin. So my eldest son, in 2017, said, "Look, Mum, you need to look at Bitcoin," and I didn't take it seriously. I did buy some Bitcoin. I told him to get some Bitcoin for my husband and for me and for the children for Christmas. And we, of course, we bought at the peak, and then it fell down. But he kept going, and at some point I had to say, Patrick, out of the family chat about Bitcoin. But he kept going, and then 2020, 21, when the pandemic came, I had time. I started reading, and then I understood it. And I will be eternally grateful to my son for showing me the door.
So, thank you, Patrick.
Yes, definitely.
So, I want to talk about because in nowadays world, right? Both parents have to work. Both sides have to work, and the children often get alone.
Yeah.
They are alone. They are home alone, like the movie actually. But and I feel there's this disconnect. In my family, wasn't this case. It wasn't the case. Probably yours wasn't.
I think I'm
either.
lucky because I think I was probably one of the last generations. We led quite an expat life, so we lived all around the world, out and then back to Germany. And I had the privilege. I've got 4 children, and I was privileged enough to be able to stay at home with the children to a large extent. And it really is a privilege, but it shouldn't be a privilege.
Yeah.
And it's precisely for that reason that I'm so passionate about Bitcoin, because I really strongly believe. Why are we having our greatest assets, and the minute they're born, you're shoving them off for someone else to look after, bringing them up with their values and their beliefs? I want my children to grow up with my beliefs. And when you stick your children in an institution from early days, that's why we don't have thinkers, and that's why we're all a bunch of sheep, So, yeah.
So I had that in my generation. Basically, I was always the black sheep, right? In my whole school, I was the black sheep. I was the guy who acted, who if there was a problem, I just went to the teacher and asked him, hey, what's the problem, And I feel my generation, especially, they have a huge disconnect to their parents. I mean, I had a friend. He was like, I hate my dad. I'm like, why do you hate your dad? Well, because he's never there. Have you thought about it? Why he's never there? Well, no. Like that was my everyday life, and I'm like, you hate your dad because he's not there, but that he's working.
But doesn't that just show how much the children need
Need
the
their
parents?
parents, exactly.
And it's not just it's not just for the care things. It's, are you on the side of the football pitch when there's a match going on? Are you? And the thing with children is you can't. They started always talking about, well, I have quality time. I'm sorry, am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
Swear.
that's bollocks, because you never know when you need. You never know when the child needs you, and you cannot fit it in 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening.
No.
You'll have it that they'll come home from school and they've had a really rough day at school, and they want to talk about it, or they don't want to talk about it, but they want someone to make them a bowl of custard. And so, I was at a conference this year, and there was a book that's been written about the top 20 women in Germany. And all these women were there, and they were presenting and they were all talking about their high-powered jobs. And one of the women was saying, "Oh, my children, I go to the gym at 5:00 in the morning, and the children, since they've been 6, they have an Outlook calendar, and they know that they have to put their dates." And I'm just thinking, I'm so glad I'm not your child. Let your child be a child, and the only time you can be a child is in your childhood. And if they just live in these really tight boundaries of going to school, being busy because there's nobody there to look after them, and they don't have the time to climb trees and pick the scabs off their knees and just be a child and have somebody who cares. Are you spending too long on your phone, or are you on social media? The parents are exhausted when they get home from work. And when you're tired, you cannot be a good parent. I know every time I was my rubbish at being a mum, and that did happen, it was always when I'm tired. And if you've been out at work and then you pick your children up and your children are tired and you're tired, of course you're going to say, oh yeah, go on, watch the television, or,
Yeah.
you know, just, yeah.
That's maybe also the reason why we have that today is they don't want thinkers, they don't want doers, they want slaves basically. It's a modern slave system, if you want to say so. I mean,
100%. If you look at the white paper that was written, I think in the 1920s in America, for the public schools, which were then, you know, came into being, it's written in black and white on the white paper in the first line that they want docile beings.
Yeah.
It's in black and white. They're not even hiding it.
it's unbelievable, actually.
It's unbelievable. And so we're bringing up, I mean, I lived in China for a while, and if you drove past the schools, all the children would be out in the courtyard and they're all doing the same thing at the same time. So, you know,
Wow.
they'd all, like, they'd count 1 to 10 in Chinese, and they'd all do the same actions with their arms. You're creating this nation of autonomans, yeah, of robots. And we're doing the same. We're doing the same in Europe. If you want to be good at school, you have to fit in. And who fits in? It's predominantly the girls fit in. The boys find it more difficult to fit in because they need a lot more space. They need a lot more running around. They need to get rid of their energy. And what happens? They can't do this. And what do? We put them on drugs. You know, how many boys are now taking Ritalin and goodness knows what? And all they need, time and attention and a good run around, fresh air.
And not even because they don't even take all these drugs because they're actually, you know, they just need energy. They just need time for themselves.
Yeah.
So
So this whole system. I was talking to someone about this. This was we make such a fuss about animal rights, yeah? And then we say, oh, we don't keep our animals. You know, you keep all these chickens cooped up, and then you keep all. Well, what do we do with our children?
yeah.
I mean, from 9 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they might have 2 breaks in the day. They're cooped up. They're sitting on a chair, facing the front, doing what it's just not kindgerecht. How do you say that in
Child
friendly? It's just not child friendly.
Child-friendly, yeah.
It's just not child friendly. So we're not putting their needs in the fore. We're putting the needs of the adults, because you've got one adult at the front of the class. She's got to look after 30 children. She needs them to all be well behaved.
That's also the thing. Well behaved. What is well behaved?
Fitting in.
Fitting in. And what's fitting in? Being a soldier, or being
Yes.
you know, the rat race, like where you see all those rats.
Yes.
It's basically like that.
Yeah.
But now there's Bitcoin, and people with Bitcoin, especially families with Bitcoin, or your son, which orange pilled you.
Yeah.
That must have been a huge change for you guys, basically. So
My life has changed beyond recognition, because I mean I was a quarter of a century at home, basically. I mean, I did, obviously you do other things as well,
Yeah.
but the focus of my life was bringing up the children. And now once I discovered and understood Bitcoin, and I knew that I wanted to work for Bitcoin because it's so important for my children that my daughter's 27. And there are so many of her friends who say, I don't want to have children. And I find, you know, we're animals. Why do you not want to procreate? And then they'll have a number of reasons. But one of the reasons is often they can't afford it, which to a large extent is true. And, you know, if you're both going out to work and you live in a little flat, I've forgotten what the original question was. Have you as well?
oh yeah, me as well. Blackout. No, it was about. Then we have Bitcoin, and how can that basically change?
so
how did it change?
It changed. So for me, I think I was right time, right place. And, you know, having been at home for so long, I've now got this absolutely stunning career. Well, I hate the word career because I think that's a fiat word.
That's a fiat word, yeah.
We have a life.
Yeah.
And I think we somehow managed to persuade women that it was more important to have a career, and that was the be all. If you don't earn money for something, it's got no value. And so these poor women are trying to juggle everything, and they're having the feeling that they're not doing anything right. Yeah. And so now, Bitcoin has opened up. I work full time for a Bitcoin mining company. I serve on the board of the European Bitcoin Energy Association. I started an association called Les Femmes Oranges to get more women into Bitcoin. But when I look at my son, so my son was also one who didn't particularly fit in, because I think they're the ones who they think outside the box, and that's why they understand Bitcoin. And he is now moving to El Salvador. He knows, he feels safe enough in his financial backing that he can now do what he wants. And he wants to work and produce, but he doesn't want to be in the rat race. And he knew he could never be in the rat race. He's not the right kind of person for it. And it's just given him this cushion and this sense of independence that, okay, what project do I want? What do I want to work on? What's my passion? And follow your passion. So that's what Bitcoin does. It just frees you up. It gets you out of the rat race and lets you follow what you really want to do in life.
It gives you there's always the saying, choose what your heart wants. It's that.
Yeah.
If your heart tells
Follow your
you,
heart.
follow your heart, right? And
what's
I
it
never-
done for you? Am I allowed to ask you a question?
yeah, sure. I never loved it when I was in school and we always had to raise hands.
Yes.
If the teacher was, what's that or this, or if they asked us, explain me this, I'll never, if I never raised hands, just like, go outside. Why should I go outside? You wanted and you asked me something and there's the answer, right? And I feel in the Bitcoin space, for me, we don't have that. I can scream as loud as I want. People
Do
will,
you feel more accepted
Yeah.
then, since
that's the thing. I feel
more comfortable
more
with
comfortable.
who you are? You can be who you are.
I can be
and
who
people
I
will
am,
accept you.
and it's a family. It's a. I mean, I met you. I met Raheem. I met Daniel. I met so many people from so many different countries of the
Yeah.
world, and they feel like family. They feel
Yeah.
like friends to me.
Yeah.
And in school, it was never like that. It was eat or be eaten, and if you didn't have the grades,
Yeah.
you were nothing special. If you had the grades, you were a god creature or something.
Yeah.
But for me, essentially, when I discovered Bitcoin through my brother Joel, it was a way out of a system which didn't want me
And
'cause
didn't work for you.
and didn't work for
I
me
think it's probably not that it didn't want you, but you just
because I was different, right?
You were
I was
different.
outside
And
the
it
box.
doesn't celebrate people. Everything has to fit into these boxes. And I mean, we don't, and it's good that we don't fit into boxes.
It's like during COVID there was like this guy who when the workers came in they had to tick like, do you have COVID? Yes, no, maybe. And everybody was like, no. And that's like me, like, no, I don't have COVID, and no, I'm not part of that system because
Yeah.
that system doesn't like me, you
Yeah.
know. So it's like,
If I could be a mum again, though, from the beginning, I wish that I had taught my children to be more themselves, because I probably did want them to conform too much, and you do reward the behavior. I wanted them to always be very respectful.
yeah.
And I think it was being too obedient. It's that fine line. Respectful is good. Respectful is
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
But you should be able to question adults. And I think I didn't give them enough freedom to put their hand up and say, I don't think this is right. So if I could do that again, I would do that
I mean,
differently.
best example is if you want. I mean, I always did that. If I wanted something, my mom, whenever my mom, when we went to the city, to buy groceries and all that stuff, we always walked past like toy stores, and I was like, Mom, can I get a toy? And she's like, well. And I knew when that well came, it's probably a no. But one day she said, well, yes, let's get you a toy. And I was like, why did you say yes this time? And she was like, well, because you respectfully asked me. If you ask with respect, I will get you anything you want. But if you disrespect me and not are respectful enough, you don't get it. You don't get anything in life.
Yeah.
And I think that's also in the Bitcoin space. We respect each other. I mean,
Yeah.
you're probably, I'm not sure how old you are. I won't ask you because
54. I don't mind. Everyone can know.
you sure?
I'm 54.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're older than me. I'm younger than you, and yet
Yeah.
here we are talking to
Yeah.
each other
On the same level.
on the
That's
same
what's so
level.
nice,
And
yeah.
you don't have that in schools. You don't have that in families sometimes because parents hate their children.
Yeah.
Children hate their parents. Sorry, and maybe parents also hate their children for some reason. I mean, I hope not. But
I think everyone's stressed.
everyone is stressed.
Everybody is stressed, and if you're stressed, then that's what comes out. And I think I have learned so much from my children, and you just learn so much from your children, and you'll never stop learning from your children. And they just keep you. I would never be here. I would never be here. I would never be doing what I was doing if it weren't for the son who opened his eyes and decided for himself that no, there's something wrong with the system.
So, I mean, I just have. I mean, I have a follow-up question for you then. Do you think if Patrick wasn't born, you would have still discovered Bitcoin? Or if you.
I don't think I would. Honestly, I don't think I would, because we were very much in the fiat world.
Mhm.
And we did very well in the fiat world. I mean, we lived this expat life. My husband always worked for very big companies where we would be sent out abroad. The salary was good. Okay, we did both lose our jobs in the pandemic, and that was
Yeah,
a bit
yeah,
of a
like-
shock. And it's happened before. I mean, that was the third time actually he'd lost his job. It wasn't on my radar, and there was, I mean, I studied business and economics, and I didn't know what money was. And I wouldn't have questioned any of this if I hadn't been repeatedly encouraged to look into it. The pandemic definitely helped, 100%. I think for me, that was when I started feeling that things weren't quite right in the pandemic and that the rules just didn't make sense. That made me more sensitized to think, well, if that doesn't make sense, what else doesn't make sense? So
Yeah.
it was rubbish.
You start questioning it.
Yeah,
If
100%.
so,
100%.
do you then think that this disconnect, that gap between parent and child, can be fixed with Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin fixes a lot, but not everything. But do you think that if a family would just sit together on a table like this and say, listen, we gotta change something? How, why, what, when? You
I think if anything can do it, it's Bitcoin that can do it, because it's this whole low time preference of Bitcoin that it buys you more time and it buys you more energy. Because you're not constantly having the work that you've done be eroded away by all this extra money printing. So I think when we've all got a lot more time, then we have a lot more energy.
Yeah.
And then we need to sit down and think what really is important in life.
Yeah.
And you have to look after yourself. You have to look after your family. You have to look after your neighbours. The government is not there to help you. They just are not there to help you. They get maybe intentions at the beginning, but it gets bigger and bigger, and it becomes this all-consuming thing that just takes and takes and takes and spits you out at the end. We need to get back to the granular level. You need healthy food, you need a roof over your head, you need loving relationships, you need a network, you need family. And I think it will get to, once we're on the Bitcoin standard, there won't be pensions. It will be more, you're responsible for your children
Yeah.
and your children are responsible for you. And I think that's a nice, I mean, when I look at my children, my parents spent a lot of time helping me with the children. Now my children spend a lot of time with my parents. And I love this. This is the cycle of life. And we need to get back to that, not shoving your children into institutions, not shoving the old people into institutions, but just that's the role of the family, and that's what the family should be doing.
And also maybe be humble to each other and not always hate each other. That's
Yeah.
also a thing that why is there even hate in this world? Why do people hate each other? I mean,
It's always not understanding, isn't it? It's when we don't
exactly
understand each
when
other.
we don't understand each other, we hate each other.
Yeah.
That's why I made the reference before to my friend who hates his dad. I'm like, why you hate your dad? Maybe you don't get or
Yeah.
understand what he's up to every day.
Yeah, it's lack of communication, and probably the dad's tired that he's in this rat race, and they think they're doing it for the family.
Yeah,
and we're chasing money all the time. We think that this money is so important, and if I just have that much more and that much more, I'll be happy, and the family will be happy. And it doesn't work like that. The incentive system is wrong. It's just wrong, and it's made this elbow mentality. You have to step on people's heads to get ahead.
Yeah.
And I find much more now. I work in the Bitcoin world. If you've got Bitcoin and I've got Bitcoin, if you do something that's good for Bitcoin, it's good for me. If I do something that's good for Bitcoin, it's good for you. So there's much more cooperation with businesses. We cooperate with all of the businesses in the Bitcoin space because we know if we work together, we'll achieve our goal much stronger. And anything that's good for Bitcoin is good for me. I'm a Bitcoiner. So
It's like that one picture where you see the guy with the leash,
yeah,
with the slaves, and then one stands up, then two stand up, and then 100 stand up.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that.
yeah.
So
Where are we on that? How many are standing up at the moment, do you think?
I would say all of them, because right now we need to stand up.
Yeah.
I mean,
But how many do you think are standing up? Are we at the one person? Are we at the two people? Or
We are the,
when do we get to the critical mass?
I would say we are the 10 people.
Okay.
So because Bitcoin space can still adapt, it can still get bigger. So
Yeah.
we're already big. I mean, look around you. There are tons of people. So
But it's still a very little
at the
world. And
beginning,
this is precisely the reason that, along with your mum, and we need more women in the space, because women are networkers and they're communicators.
yeah,
They will be the ones who will take this technology and make it presentable to society, like they do with their children, that they bring up the children, they make it acceptable to society. This is what we need to do with Bitcoin, and I think women are better at spreading the message. We're more cooperative. If you talk to the guys, it's, well, you don't get it, you're not tech enough, or
yeah.
and it can be off-putting.
I think men are more direct. They do it. They and you and women are more, networking, and
Yeah.
that's like with my mom. I always saw that my mom. She's always good in networking for some reason. I'm like, Mom, how did you get that by?
We can just do it.
You
There's
can just do it.
We can go up to people and talk, and you particularly find in the Bitcoin world that it's predominantly tech people. Thank goodness, and thank goodness we've got them, because we need them. But they're perhaps not always the most communicative and outgoing people. And that's what we need now. We need the trust and the confidence in this system. And if I see another woman, and especially if she looks like me, acts like me, and she's doing it, then I'm much more likely to think, oh, then I can do this.
If you do it, others will follow, right? It's
Yeah.
like if parents do stuff, the children will do the same.
But we also need more youth in Bitcoin, because if we want the younger generation to get involved, they need to see the younger generation on the stage. And so I think that's, now we've got lots of women events going on. Let's think about putting youth events going on, run by the youth, like we had in Madeira, which was fantastic.
Yeah,
it was
the
a
kids'
feel-good feel-good event, and that's what will get the youth into it.
So one final question before we end this podcast. You mentioned Les Femmes Orange before. Would you like to expand on that?
So when we started it up, it was a group of women, and at the beginning we were going to have it just for women.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone said, you know what, that's not in the ethos of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is for everybody. And it is true. And there were some men who are maybe not so technical, and maybe they've got a larger feminine side. So what we do is, it's Bitcoin education made by women, but men are welcome, but they have to bring a woman. Because we want to,
great.
and they can bring their mum, and they can bring their neighbour. It doesn't have to be a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, but just we need to keep feminine energy there. And you'll notice at this event, there are so many men, it's very masculine. And if you don't have enough of the women tend to hold back. And we need that feminine energy in the room, so we make sure that we get plenty of women, and it's working, and it's growing like crazy. And it's this decentralized, it's not a company, it's not an association, it's an idea, it's a movement.
It's a movement, yeah.
And so we're getting that, just like 21 that do it on the well, they're for everybody, but you tend to find it's quite technical, and the women don't feel comfortable there. And just like them, it's moving to lots of different cities. And like here at Prague, they asked me to do a Les Femmes Orange. They asked me to do one in Madeira, in El Salvador, potentially in Bulgaria, in Slovenia. So it's growing, and you meet the people, and they think it's a fantastic idea, and they take it and they run. Yeah. And that's what we need.
Do you maybe also think that, as a roundup question, that women tend to, go behind the husband because they also have the thought, oh, who's going to watch after the children, or oh, what if I don't get this or that, or
I think it's two things. I think that we do have a big workload on our plate. So the women still do the predominant part of the childcare, even if they go out to work. They do the predominant household jobs. They predominantly look after the parents. They're busy. Mm-hmm. And they literally do not have time, and they're tired. And then you come home and you're supposed to work out, where do I invest my money? So it has tended to be the debate that, oh, my husband does that. So it's a little bit from history that you just think it's not finance, it's not for me, tech, it's not for me. I think that's something that we need to change, because women are perfectly capable of being able to do it, and they should be doing their own finances. And I think that the men are quite grateful when they don't have the burden of always having to do this.
You know how many times my mom actually told men, let your wife do, just let her do. she will find her way. And when they did that, they always thanked her and said thank you.
Yeah.
Finally,
Yeah.
she can be
Yeah.
herself. So
You see, I think it's a very natural thing when a woman has a child. You have to put you're protecting that child.
yeah, it's your
and then
child.
you need the husband, the man, the whatever to protect you. And that's in a man's genes to protect. They like to protect women and they like to solve problems for women. And it comes from the best place. It comes really from the best place. So if I'm having difficulties with something, then it will often happen that the guy will come along and go, let me do it for you. And they mean well. But in this case, it's not what's helpful. The women need to learn how to do it by themselves. So, and this is why we're careful at Les Femmes Orange. We have to be careful who does the workshops. It's got to be someone who understands. Let them do it themselves. And even if it takes 10 times as long, it doesn't matter. But don't take, for example, the hardware wallet off them and do it for them. Let them do it. But, we'll get there. I mean, it's all about education and understanding. We need to understand men are not trying to hold women down. They're not.
No.
They're not. I mean, we've had, years and years. If you think about it, women, where we came from, it's just since contraceptive that we've had this ability that you don't have a million children, and that wasn't men being evil and wanting to hold the women down. It was just evolution.
Yeah.
And this is where we've come to, and now we're at nobody's doing anything on purpose. It's precious from society. And I think that what Bitcoin will do is reward the energy. There's feminine energy and there's masculine energy. And we need both of them. And they're both good. And what we've got at the moment is masculine energy is rewarded financially. And feminine energy is not rewarded financially. So you'll find the women who go out to work, they have to behave like men.
Yeah.
To get that top position. And it's not, I mean, it's a bell curve, so you will have some women who like that, but it's not in our
You have
genes.
to put your elbows out, right? That's what my mom also did. My mom was an ex-banker, so and she was a banker in the 80s, 90s, somewhere around there.
Probably the 90s.
Probably the 90s,
I think she's the same age as me, so it'll be the 90s.
Yeah, 90s, sorry. And that was a time when women had they were
norm there.
Most of women, when they did work, it was like, do the bills, do these, do that, do the accounting.
Yeah.
And she was a banker, and she said, listen, I want equal pay like that guy.
Your mum's awesome, though. I mean, your mum is a step ahead.
Yeah.
And I can learn a lot from your mum, because I still am at that level where I find it hard to. I think you have to learn what's your value.
Yes.
And it's very difficult if you are a stay-at-home mum, you can rest assured that wherever you go, and if they ask you what you do and you say, I'm a mum, it's a conversation stopper.
Yes.
So nobody wants to talk to you, you're boring. It's sad, but it's true. It's true. And because there is no financial reward for being a mum, even though you are contributing such an important thing to society. If the women stop having children, there's no society.
Yeah.
So I hope that with Bitcoin that we'll start to understand, okay, if we need to reward the time and the energy that whoever's bringing up the children, it doesn't matter who does it, but whoever's doing it, that is such a valuable contribution to society. Let's reward what society really needs. And that's what I think is going to happen with Bitcoin, that we're going to slow down, sit back down and go, do we want to have a nation of robots? Or do we want to have a nation of children who think for themselves, act for themselves, can be a child in their childhood and then grow up to be strong, independent, thinking, Bitcoiners, adult, whatever they want to be. Maybe they don't want to be a Bitcoiner, that's up to them. Yeah.
Okay. So that was cool. Rachel, you're amazing. So thank you for doing this with me.
It's always a pleasure, Alice. Always a pleasure.
Do you have social media?
I do have social media. I'm not very good with it. I've got Twitter, and my handle is Geyer_Rachel. We have a website for lesfemmesorange.work, lesfemmesorange.work. My work address, in case you're interested in Bitcoin mining, is terahash.space. And in case you're interested in supporting the European initiative, it's ebea.work.
Okay,
so you can find me at all those places.
So I will link that all down below.
Fantastic.
So people, that was another episode of NoMad Podcast. Rachel, thank you.
Pleasure.
I hope you will enjoy the rest of the conference. I'm not sure how long it will be actually, but
I think another hour,
Another hour.
and then it's bedtime.
Then it's bedtime. Yeah. So thank you.
Cool. You're welcome,
And
Yannis.
see you soon.
See you at the next conference.
See you.
NoMad Podcast.